how about some lunch? You hungry?
Yeah.
Me too. Go.
Pretty scary little video clip. And if that didn't scare you, these statistics certainly should. Now, the reason for this is to remind you about the emotion we are talking about, fear, one of the most powerful motivators we know. Now, I want to make it very clear, fear is not bad intrinsically. It's a natural instinct. It's there to protect us. And there are lots of things out there that we need protection from, and it's right to be afraid of them. The difficulty is, over the last 50 years with the advent of television, we have been bombarded with fear messages. From the very early days of nuclear attack and the duck and cover commercials, to modern day medicine commercial with their litanies of horrors should you take the medicine, to the very cute commercials for insurance that try and hide the fear message under humor. Now, because of this bombardment over the last 50 years, fear has become normalized. In fact, to the point that it can be used to manipulate us without us even really realizing it. Now, that's the fear part of my talk. Now let's talk about politics. I have a question for you. How many of you are involved in politics? Raise your hand. The courageous few that are going to admit that in this time and age. Actually, I want to point out that you are all involved in politics. Politics is merely the interaction of individuals that involves influence, power, or control. We are most involved in what we call social politics, be it your relationships with your spouse, raising children. How many of you have heard or used the phrase, "wait till your father gets home"? That's a phrase to instill fear in that child to control behavior. In fact, the author Alinsky said that life is a corrupting influence from the moment a child learns how to play the politics between his mother and father on the time to go to bed. And of course, how many of us don't know the fear of the workplace? Will I be accepted? Will I get promoted? Am I doing a good enough job? Will I be fired? Now, at this point, you might be thinking, where is this going? And moreover, what does the dean of a college of engineering know about politics and fear? Well, I first learned about the politics of fear when I was a young child, and I first started to realize I was different. I can tell you that growing up as a gay child in the Midwest in a Catholic school is the definition of fear. But I learned how to play the politics. I learned how to play straight. And it worked. I didn't get beat up that much by my local neighborhood bullies. But it made me angry. And it made me want to be in politics for real, because that's where there was power. But as a gay child in the 60s, politics was not an open field to me. So I started focusing on the politics of governing, which is the pure expression of power and control in our society. And as an academician, someone who retreated to books for safety, I did a little research. Now, you'll be surprised to learn that the politics of fear goes way back. From the earliest times in the Middle East to Egypt, where they painted great murals of the death they meted out to their enemies, not only to scare their enemies, but to instill fear and awe in their subjects so they could control them. Religion has used the fear of God and eternal damnation since recorded history. The American patriots used an embellished account of the Boston Massacre to instill fear and incite revolution. And of course, we all know the most serious use of fear, Hitler and Germany, and we know where that led. Now, there was a few things going on in Germany that made that appeal to fear very important. In times of great social change, two things happen to us. One is we're afraid because of things that are going on, so the fear appeal is more attractive. So it's more effective when people say things that are afraid, that make you afraid, that you're going to be hurt, that you're going to be harmed. And when that happens, we resort to a natural biological instinct, a herding instinct. We want to be in the group. There's safety in numbers. We want to belong. And what happens is a thing that psychologists call groupthink. It's a desire for harmony. So you actually join the group and do what they do and think like they do. And in fact, we do that to such an extent that we stop logical decision making. We go with the group and will often even suppress the ideas of others. We no longer can engage in civil discourse about our differences. Now, it shouldn't surprise you that since fear is so effective, it's very, very popular in US presidential politics. We think that this is a new phenomenon or a horrible phenomenon that we're experiencing now. It is long and has been going on for a very long time. Our very first contested presidential election between John Adams and Jefferson, Adams put out billboards, not billboards in those days, flyers, that said Jefferson was going to abolish slavery and cause a civil war. That was very, very frightening. In the John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson campaigns, John Quincy Adams put out what are called coffin bills, circulated across the country, in which he said Andrew Jackson, during his Indian campaigns, had Indian warriors served up for breakfast and ate them. He was a cannibal. That scared a lot of people. Now, this could be very depressing, and it keeps going on. But what is most important, and I want you to know, is that research and my personal experience has shown that the effectiveness of fear is diminished by knowledge. When you face your fears and you know what you're afraid of and you can talk about it, it makes a difference. Now, this is where I really learned this. In 2004, in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, where I'm from, our city passed an ordinance to protect gays and lesbians and those transgendered and gender identity from discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodation. I know you'll find this shocking. It was extremely controversial. There was a lot of upheaval about this. The strongest opponents were the churches, especially the African American churches, which in my community was about 48% of the population. It was put to a public vote, and it passed by a small majority. In response, a seated councilman, an African American Baptist minister, sued the city for which he served. I'd had it. I was over it. It was time. I ran for city council. Needless to say, as an openly gay man running in a relatively conservative community, not compared to Jacksonville, compared to Cleveland, Ohio, it was scary. It was getting ugly. There were things being said that were, shall we say, not nice. So I thought about this, and I said, this is what I want to do. So I decided to face it head on. And I joined with some of my African American friends and went to the churches on Sunday. I went to the Orthodox Jewish community, and I met with them as they were in church, as they came out of church, in their homes. It was scary for both of us. They expected a three-headed monster. I tried to explain to them that I filed down the horns. But we learned from each other what we really were. And I'm happy to say that in November of 2004, I was elected as the first openly gay councilperson in the city of Cleveland Heights, and only the second or third openly gay person in the state of Ohio. I was even doubly honored 4 years later when the African American community came out in force to re-elect me. Now, the reality is fear will always be a part of the political process. It's one of the strongest motivators when it comes to trying to get people to do certain things. And that's what a politician wanting to get elected is trying to do. In times of great change, in social upheaval, when there's threats to us, that fear appeal is even more effective. But I'm here to tell you, fear does not have to control. From my experience, from research, if you are aware that the fear appeal is being made and you can address those fears straight on, you lessen the effect of the appeal. Now, what this means is we all have something very important to do. In this very turbulent time, we cannot stop engaging with each other. We must talk about our fears. It doesn't mean that the fears aren't real, that there aren't problems. It's that you have to recognize that you have them. And moreover, you need to discuss those fears with other people who have very real and valid fears. They may not be your fears. You may not even believe that that fear is true, but you must respect that that's their fear. And you have to talk logically and civilly about it. We are very different people, and whatever decision you make to fight those fears is your personal decision. But do it from a place of knowledge and respect. Don't do it from emotion and groupthink. And the only way we can do that is move past our own fears to listen to others. So my message, and in conclusion, I want to draw on the words of somebody much more articulate and a much better politician than me. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Thank you.